Greetings, fellow outsiders. Welcome back to Phoenix Wright, AceAttorney. Today we are interrogating the Officer Jake Marshall. Let's do it. February 24th, 12:14 p.m., District Court, Courtroom number 9. I wonder if the time is ever actually going to matter for Phoenix Wright. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand, the officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Oh, hi there. Witness, please state your name and occupation. But if he's not drinking alcohol, he's just like swallowing swords this entire time. Me, partner. Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trials of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know, you're a patrolman. Gulp, gulp. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind call it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You're in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime, when it took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. Witness testimony. The day of the crime. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at the street side saloon at the time that it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo this time, I hit the trail. What are you saying? I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence locker? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines or with following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. Cross-examination. Let's do it. Alright, press him! How exactly do you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. The room's so still. Even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings. You interred them? Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I had erased a tape, I felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room? They said I was supposed to be making rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Hold it. But you made your rounds the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. Afraid I don't understand. No desperado, I know let's rules get in his way. No desperados I know join the police force. So Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime, just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There's a rubber glove stuck to the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner, I can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How does this guy avoid being fired? That's my question. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. We already asked about this, but might as well press on it anyways. You used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course. Back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Sorry, partner, I ain't good with machines. I couldn't even tell you how a bike works. That's quite incredible. The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too. At any rate, it doesn't seem like this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? If I remember right, I was at the street side saloon at the time it went down. Hold it. What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel's steak lunches can beat that parlor's vongole sepia pasta. You mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson. That's strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want a raise this year?" I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's all the time I hit the trail. We have to present the fingerprint at some point too. Out of ammo, Officer Marshall? That's right, partner. Or as you call it, evidence. If you plan to pin me on this crime, then you'd better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry me back west onto the sunset. One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Texans don't take orders from anyone, everyone knows that. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card up my sleeve, so I best keep my cool. Before I use it, though, I'd better up the ante. Up the ante? Okay, so I just have to present the fingerprint at some point, I'm assuming. Let's pull out the fingerprints. Objection! Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. I love Phoenix's face there. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects. That is my rounds about once a month. It's only natural. My fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But, you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. I like his shoes. I just realized he's wearing, like, cowboy heels. Witness, what's the meaning of this? The blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene? The blood was wiped away, however. Luminol testing clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? It seems to me, there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall? About the blood-stained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints found at the scene of the crime. Witness testimony! Alright. Like I said, it's only natural my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched that locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know that the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it. The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. Let's do it. Bloodstained fingerprints. Oh yeah. It's only natural for my fingerprints. No, it's not! That's because you, how did you put it, pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. Marshall's fingerprints updated in the court record. Okay. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the bloodstained handprint. Hold it. So then, what about the bloody handprint? Wasn't mine. It's no mystery. Please explain. My locker is covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened the murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward for me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Hold it! Unrelated? They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast and the other's a type of murderer. He's right, although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. Or did you know the murderer was wearing gloves? Hold it, how do you know? Exactly. I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There's a bloodstain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on the Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint? That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? The seal of blood in the desert. In the desert, it's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. So long as my trial isn't there, you can't say otherwise. Trail isn't there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. Do we have to look at the tape or something? Too bad it wasn't me in that video, right, partner? Well, how do we know? The face was covered. What do you mean by that? You want me to tie this to the crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. Judge. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence of this, that this video indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now. Sure. Sure. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now then, let's have another look at the video. Show us the incriminating evidence of Jake Marshall. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Alright, so we got this guy here. I want to look back at his locker. His locker! His locker! Did it even register? There, how's that for evidence? Please allow me to apologize for my colleague, Your Honor. Edgeworth, don't apologize for me. He gets carried away sometimes. There is not a piece of cloth hanging out that time, though. That's what I was trying to get. Will you forgive him, Officer Marshall? He's not a bad man, just a bit disillusioned. Of course, I'm not one to gun down unarmed boys. Oh, great, now Edgeworth is defending me. Guess that means I missed the mark. No, go back, please. Up, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Hold on, pause. That cloth was not always there. I think I got it right this time. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out. That was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. There's poor Meekins there. Is there anything else that's gonna be in this video that's important? There's the paint up top. But other than that, I don't know. Oh, the white cloth! It's gone! What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order, order. Would seem that's the only... Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was opened? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really is. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker? Now prove it! It's the fingerprinting system. Everybody knows about it. What do I have to show for it? The fingerprinting set? Only the assigned detective's prints can unlock it. Indicate the lamplights. There. Take that! Fingerprint sensor. Uh-oh, he's sweating now. We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can be opened by the detectives they belong to. Well, what kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There's even some people on the force that don't know about fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? What is he chewing on? I only got 1 word for you, partner. No! So dramatic. Order, order, order! Witness, explain yourself. If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Olay, please answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here. We can. Have a look at these floor plans. There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right. The only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? Over here. Near the locker. He'd be around the corner, right? Officer Marshall was standing right here. So Officer Meekins didn't notice him standing there? It's almost as credible as Meekins' warp theory. Your chamber's empty, partner. Better reload. How am I getting so many things wrong? Now they're ganging up on me. Perhaps. You should think a little bit more about where Officer Marshall was. Oh, was he... Should have seen him in the evidence room? Was he just he was playing the guy. Who was playing Officer Goodman. That's who he was. Well then, let's hear... Is that what it is? Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? Right here! Take that! Is that correct? Officer Marshall was standing right here. There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous! Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman? He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show him his card, sir. Yes? And how did the Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me! Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on this ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. So you have anything to say about this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break the detective, unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. You've complained twice now, so... Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well... Am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. Ah! This can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? Edgeworth, are you gonna come in and help me now? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. What? Where? I'll pass on to you something someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came out about This game is messing with my head. But rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. How do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open this locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open this locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. Is that white cloth the jacket? That's gotta be what it is. The fact that, thank you Edgeworth, that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all of our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. Very well, let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker. Oh my god. This song. And the thing. If I have to. Oh, no, wait, go back. Wait, go back. Hold on. Okay, pause. It's the jacket. He's wearing a white jacket. Judge, please. Well, what do you have to say to that? Alright, partner. You really want to know the reason I had to open my locker? Why? So I could stuff you in there. Huh? I'm sure the world would be a better place with you sent off to the boneyard. Unfortunately, unsolved cases can't be stored in the evidence room. I'm an unsolved case. How did I get it wrong? Something went wrong in that evidence room. That's why Marshall had to open his locker. The unexpected event is the reason. Better have another crack at this. Is it Meekins? Yeah. There's blood here. Hold on. Take that! Take that! Is that right? For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled the knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. What up, partners? That's me at Edgeworth. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did, all of it. All right. Seems the time has come. Witness testimony. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him, planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins, so I knocked him out, and I managed to escape. I know which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you? But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. I agree with Phoenix on that one. Cross-examination. I had to do it that day. I just couldn't stand by and let it die. Are you talking about SL9? When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since the case was closed. I was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. What did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner, that case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why Didn't he also say, Angel said that both of them got demoted that day, so like that's why he cares so much. I stole the detective's ID card and dressed like him. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera? And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost items report? I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. Why were you there? The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. Oh, he was there doing the investigation later on, like way later. Okay. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight? What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker by yourself. But he could, just because a rubber glove happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. Why wasn't he... Oh, was the first one like a guest pass, and that was him going in earlier in the day? I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. Hold it. He pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off. Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type person, mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little bit more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and managed to escape. I knew which areas would be caught on the camera. Hold it. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go in the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day, there wasn't any murder in the evidence room. Hold it. The blood found at the scene currently indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker? Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where's that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Was it the knife that was hidden in the muffler? Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer? This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine, and I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. I can't just forget the SL9 incident. You want to know why? I have a feeling you're gonna tell me. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murderers, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at the trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is? I had a feeling he'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I'd better take another look at all the files. Okay, so I have to present him with the files? Is that what you're implying? Okay, so this is the SL9 case. It says closed, Joe Dark serial murderer death. Victims, Jason Knight, Rachel Moss, Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall? Oh, one of the victims was Marshall. That's his last name. Okay, then I'll present this. Objection! Objection! Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall? Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago. Oh! He received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. What's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the deputy chief of police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Oh. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. Interesting. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There is more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try and hide it, you can't fool me. Does he think Edgeworth did it? Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time, the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's gotta be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's officer's parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means the only person who could have committed the crime, Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached during yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remain the mystery of the simultaneous murders at the police department. It seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I rest my case. It seems the trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving this alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant. Hold it. Is it gonna be Emma? I knew it. Your Honor, wait. Emma? The defense has an objection. A scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright? Are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor, in a sense? Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking for is a minute of your time. Please, hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. Oh, Edgeworth. I knew he had a good heart. I was kind of in a shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Skye sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what the Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint. I mean, the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured out if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. So, did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry. I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad, I'm just a high school student. I'm just an attorney. But, Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you! Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry, I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be... Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. I've never... if I ever needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? I object? Sure. There's no problem! This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction that I'm gonna come with up with on the spot. The only thing that seems to be clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright. Towards you, always, Edgeworth. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something has been drawn on there? Yes, something that when drawn will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Is it that the streaks are facing towards the right? Is that what it is? Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. But there's all this evidence here. There's got to be something I can use. The question is, which item can prove something is missing on the floor plans? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. It's definitely not my attorney's badge. If it's not the way that the handprint is streaked, I'm gonna go with the blue badger. Because he was standing in front of that locker in the videotape. What about that piece of plywood? The blue badger, mascot of the police force, defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The blue badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. Oh my god, are we gonna have to watch the tape again? We've seen this tape 100 times. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Right there. Well, what? That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing there, it will be impossible to place a handprint at the spot on the locker. What? So that means, just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think through it scientifically. Emma? On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badger to the evidence room, right? After we put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the blue badger was brought in? Just one moment, I will not allow such far-fetched, balderdash in my courtroom. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time was beforehand? Someone bled prior to this struggle shown on this tape. It would have been, it had to have been, Detective Goodman, when he was really murdered! That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. Also, this makes me sad because Edgeworth was in there beforehand, so if he did it beforehand, the murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was passing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in the evidence room? That's right, the blood mark on this locker proves it. Very well, then tell us. When did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place? There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present this evidence? What shows when the first crime took place? Is it this ID of when everyone went into the evidence room? If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card? Oh, the ID card record. See, there was someone at 420. Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50? If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that the blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away? But the real murderer, by the real murderer. I would have just had 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth could have entered the evidence room. Let's look at that chart again. See, everybody keeps ignoring the first one. There's only one other card remaining, the 7 card. Talk about a lucky number. Oh, wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 77777. That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher, someone who is so-called executive officer. You don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. Objection. That's ridiculous. Just how? I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There's one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I'd appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 7777. Oh, don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I wanted to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? You need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor. I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least I did. Lana? I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why don't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana! Even if it involved forging evidence. The dramatic pause. See? That's what I'm talking about. No. No! Order! 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 Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion, we would have to wait until the following day. To be continued. Oh my god, we've got so much of the crowd in our ear. Alright, let me save. And say that is the end of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it as always. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and say farewell, friends. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, we're not alone out there, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of Phoenix Wright AceAttorney Trilogy. Mwah! Bye-bye.